Thanks very much for joining us in this conversation today. I think really good to catch up with you again. We have been working together for over 20 years. Time flies. iFAST is 25 years old, but I think we've been working together for over 20 years, and we both started from scratch essentially. I remember the days when business was small, in terms of volume. I remember trying to get the first 100 million in AUA. It took us 2 years. Today, thanks to all the business partners like Unicorn and various other partners, we do 100 million in a week probably. But I suppose, it's been a journey that we have gone through. What are your thoughts about some of that, milestones that we have gone through?
That is actually a very emotional question. I have always been sharing with Chun that over the last 20 years, I always regard iFAST as my benefactor, because when we first started, at that time, unit trust is still a very fresh thing in Singapore. And then with the help of iFAST creating this platform, it makes life so easy for financial planner like us who are just so focused on building wealth for our investors. The support that iFAST has given is really of immense value, from personal to professional. And that milestone of 100 million when I see in iFAST, I was very happy for them, because the more successful iFAST is, that means more empowerment for Unicorn.
Well, iFAST, we have a business based on the B2B and B2C part of business, but B2B all these years has been the majority part of our business. 70% of our assets under administration, AUA, actually comes from the B2B part of the business. So thanks to all your support, and I truly, have to thank you for all your support all the way. Late last year, we were also taking on additional space because we needed the additional office space. We have been essentially in the Ocean Financial Centre, and before that is the Ocean Tower at this location for the last 25 years. But late last year, we took on additional space at Singapore Land Tower as well. But I think Unicorn, you typically have been having an office at some conservation houses and so on. So what are the general thinking, when it comes to all this?
Okay, this one actually we pick up from iFAST also. I'm quite a good copycat. When I first came to your office many years ago, and I saw the setup that you all have, well, very cozy, fantastic for cooperation and even casual interaction, which I think is important for the professional partnership. I thought to myself that it's very important for professionals like us in the financial planning industry to have a proper place, a place where we can call it our own. Reason being simple. In this very buzzy place, buzzy country, Singapore, if we want to, like how I do my practice 20 years ago, that I got to meet my investor at the hotel or even a cafe to talk to them about their finance. Not so crowded at that point in time, but now with the increasing population in Singapore, that is one of the key reasons why we need to have our own space. Moreover, in finance, we are talking about something that's confidential, something personal, private. So we need to have our private place. And then where private place is concerned, I'm someone that believes strongly in this spirit called humanity. I think we need a very humane environment. That's why we have our own place, we have our own people who provide F&B service. And then when the flesh is being taken care of, then we can get into more serious topic, personal finance.
And even the name of your office sort of reflect a bit of that thinking. You call it kampong. So what gave you the thinking to call it kampong?
Okay. Even I've been to your office so many times. This morning when I first came, still a very refreshing experience. Mainly because I have this kampong blood flowing in me. The only fella who got chickens and dogs in my office. I call it kampong because I am someone that has a strong belief in kampong spirit. Those days when we were in kampong, all our doors are open. We stay in attap houses. We share as a community. We care as a community. So as a personal financial planner, I'm here to serve as many households as possible, and also working with iFAST. And I treat iFAST as, well, this word can sound a bit overly romantic, but my beloved partner. This is what I often share with Wee Kiong. This kampong spirit, I think, is very important for personal financial planner to foster this personal relationship with the investors. Because where financial planning is concerned, personal financial planning, if it is not personal, then how can that relationship take two parties into a deeper journey, which is something so sensitive? So I think this kampong spirit is very important, heart to heart, not just mind to mind.
So does this kampong spirit affect how you run a business?
Absolutely. Sometimes a little bit over bias. Okay, this kampong spirit came from my kampong days, and then the way I design my business path is very simple. I have never want to work a day in my life ever since I came out from the national service. I always believe that, when I work for a purpose, belief. And then my first belief is that I'm a human. So I need a comfortable place to work. Then I believe that I'm working also with humans, be it my colleagues or my investors. They also need a comfortable place. So I call it kampong because I want everything to be so real, so authentic, so comfortable, that there's a natural blend into it. It naturally exudes that kind of effervescence in the relationship, in the financial activities that we get into, be it internal meeting or external meeting with our investors. It does affect, and it brings us back to this very natural state, which I believe in this natural state is the states that we can perform at our best, be it in friendship building or in the financial aspect of the business.
Really good to have worked with you over the years, with that kind of thinking. Let's talk about investment philosophy. For Unicorn, for yourself, how would you describe what are some of the key philosophies that you have?
Still back to nature, back to the kampong spirit. Whatever I believe is good for myself, for my family, my parents, my wife, my kids. This will be the kind of products and service that I will avail to my investors. Now that's number one. Number two, where investment is concerned, is both science and art. The science part, we call it the Ternet's check. So we got to check everything that we can, all the important key concern of the company that we want to help our investor to invest in. And then we put it in a radar list. Wait for the right opportunity, we help our investor to buy into it. And then on the art part, that is very important. That is also irreplaceable. We're dealing with human. When the market goes through a roller coaster ride, we don't want our investor emotion to go through that roller coaster ride unattended. Constant communication, very consistent education, I think that is very important. And if that part is not taken care of, which is the soft part, the investor may lose focus, may lose track. If they fall off the track at the wrong point of the market turn, they may lose money. And with that, they may lose confidence for life.
I think when it comes to investment, all these years, and I think this is something that will always be the case, in the investment world, there are always lots of news, lots of noises, lots of things happening. And I think most investors or even investment professionals have a tendency to get lost in the midst of all this noise. Pick up newspaper, look at social media, look at all kinds of news, You have positive news, negative news, or you have a stream of negative news. Then the next week you have a stream of positive news. I suppose financial advisors and so on actually develop certain methodologies and so on to help investors cope with some of these noises. I believe one of these would be some RSP process or some DPMS process that will actually help to allow the investors to navigate through all those noises. So at Unicorn, how would you say it would be some of the processes that you use, and to what extent do you believe in the RSP and things like that?
First of all, to answer your question, we are strong believer of RSP. I want to put it very simply. Why? Very simple. Because RSP is a process that moves in coherence to the salary pattern and the spending pattern of individual investor, which means to say they collect their pay month end. Exceptionally, some organizations don't do that, like SAF. So usually the month end, they collect their salary. And then the pattern begins. So the first pattern is salary go in end of the month. And then the spending will come up also at that point in time. If we don't capture that point to help the investor with their saving pattern and their investing pattern, the investor is going to lose out more over time. That means there will be more outflow and less inflow. So investment is a game of ultimately inflow. So even you RSP out, it is actually inflow into another account, which is your own account. So it's still considered inflow. Now that's very important. So RSP is very helpful and unseen every month, but it happens naturally. And as the saying goes, the invisible force is always more powerful, much more powerful than what you can see. So automation is very powerful. And then when we come to this market noise, RSP also does a great service, because most people in Singapore, they work. Then they have family to attend to, they got their own hobbies. Not much time to deal with the market noise for many of them. Well, there are certain group, they like to study the market news. So inevitably, they will get emotionally aroused by the noise. I knew you since about 21 years ago, maybe coming to 22 years. I was a young and very new practitioner, but well with high aspiration. That's why I asked to buy you dinner, to talk to you. And over time, what have I gotten from you? This is something that I have shared with my investors very consistently and also with all my colleagues. I said, what I got from Chun is that this is a man that is so steadfast where market noise is concerned. So I was affected. The high price, the low price. But for you, immovable. You know what's going on. You were an analyst. You know what's going to happen at the end of the day. I learned my mistakes through my interaction with you, through my growing up with you. That is what I saw. So with this experience, I want to be the next you. This is how I now behave to my colleagues and to my investors. And when I interact with you over the years, I saw what I read from the intelligent investor, Benjamin Graham, happening in real life situation. And I'm very fortunate. I feel extremely fortunate. So basically, sharing with all my colleagues and investors what you've been sharing with me all these years. What will happen to the market long term? It's always about long term. It's always about being a visionary, being futuristic when it comes to investing. Don't get aroused by whatever that happen in the present that will deter you from moving towards a more brilliant financial future.
Of course, for me, over years I have my fair share of mistakes, but I typically find that if you take the right time frame, think sufficiently long term, then you can take some of these mistakes, and then in the long run, you actually still.
That means I have not bought you enough red wine. That's why I didn't get to hear your mistakes so far. I think that's a shame.
So I think one observation about the investment world that I've been making recently is this thing about passive investing, active investing, or related to what I call the efficient market hypothesis. When I was studying for CFA, 30 over years ago, there's a lot of this talk about efficient market hypothesis. The thinking is in a market like US market, where there are so many institutional investors, then the market is actually quite efficient. Efficient means if there's good news, bad news, or even before the news are out, share prices would have reflected the general trends that's happening to that particular company, that particular sector. So it actually led to a situation whereby institutional fund managers were the key players in the market, and they're all trying to beat the market all the time, trying to be the best stock picker. But you create a situation whereby it becomes very difficult to beat the market, because since all professionals are trying to do that every day, every week, every minute, then you actually find that trying to outperform becomes difficult. So you start to have a situation whereby a lot of the active funds start to find that they're unable to consistently outperform the market. It actually gave rise to this thinking that, well, if you can't outperform, then perhaps you should do the next best thing, which is to minimize the cost of investing. So in terms of the management fee for your fund and so on, it can actually be brought down. So there is that thinking that actually emerged, and that actually gave rise to this concept of passive investing, index investing, and I think the other various ETF and so on emerged, and they have been growing. What I find to be interesting is a situation whereby the trend of passive investing have taken off so well. The trend of money moving into ETF have taken off so well, and most ETFs are still index funds, meaning passive investing. So that gives rise to an interesting situation, because passive funds, index investing, are essentially funds whereby the fund managers don't actually think. You're basically saying, okay, for this fund, you're the fund manager officially, but don't think, just follow the mechanical process. This is the stocks, then every day you just buy in or out, based on this fixed portfolio. And a bigger and bigger share of the global pool of money have been going into that. But it gets to a situation where I find that we start to have a bit of the reverse effect. So much money is going into products that are not thinking, they are not supposed to think. Then you start to have a situation whereby passive investing lead to markets become less efficient again, right? Because it's a mechanical process. So whether good news or bad news, you just ignore. All right, whatever the trend in the short term, you just ignore. So you create a situation whereby you're having a bigger share of the money in a market doing a non-thinking investment process. So what I find to be interesting is actually that since you're creating this non-thinking investment process for a large part of the market, then that will actually start to lead to a situation, active investment, stock picking will become more profitable again. It becomes easier to try to outperform again. If I look at some of the trends happening in recent years, you're actually finding that momentum investing has become a big part to it. But in momentum investing, in the short term, just continue regardless of whether the company is doing well or otherwise. So it actually creates this opportunity where for active investors who truly understand the investment process, who truly look for value and sell off those that don't have value or hot momentum on hype, then you reduce exposure to that. So it creates a market where active fund managers will probably start to be able to shine again. So that is my observation.